What it tells us is that we have three bodies, and we know this. We have mind, which is the consciousness. We have matter, which is the basic organic structure, the genetic coding, and the spirit, which kind of puts the decisions, or not takes the decision, puts the decisions in there, or where it leads us, kind of way. I don't want to say something that is not, kind of leads us. So we have these three bodies, and they have to be in balance. We have matter, spirit, and mind, and together we have inside of us what is going to be eternal. We have our soul, and together, I mean, eventually we're going to do without matter, but our mind and our spirit are going to be truthfully together with us and in our soul. And this is how we're creating, how, at least in this plane, which is the material plane, this planet, how we're balancing these bodies. And now we have three planes of action. And this is interesting. We have the mental, which is the thought. We have the material, which is action, and the spirit, which is eternal. And this chart that I have here is I like it very much because it tells you just where everything starts and where it goes. So here we start everything, and think about ourselves and think about the world that we created as humans. So think of the natural world. And in a way, when you think of the creation of man, it's been superimposed on top of the natural world. The buildings, the roadways, everything that has come from humanity's mind, it's something that first started in our mind, then it was created into matter and is projected over there. But there is a third step that if we do not go there, I mean, and it's not that you're going to take a building to this third step, but there's many other things that you can take to this third step or third plane, which is the spiritual. And that is everything that we do. Is what we're doing of eternal value? Is what we're doing really going to transcend, or are we just keeping everything in the mundane? All right. So think of an idea. When you have an idea, when it first comes in your mind, it's the first tone. And this is the magnetic tone in the mental plane. So you first got the idea. What happens next? It's the challenges in the mental plane. You break that idea. You think about it. And that's what the mind does, what the human mind does. It breaks it down. I have my goal. Now I've seen my challenges. I've identified my challenges. And then what I do, I find solutions to those challenges. I bring solutions. I bring a practical solution. I always use the example of a chair, I don't know who made the first chair, but I imagine a caveman, kind of being sore from sitting down and not being comfortable. And he's kind of said, I have to make something that's not killing my back. So he kind of thought that was my goal. So what do I do? And I don't think he just saw a chair, he kind of had to figure it out, I knew, I need something that I'm not, on the ground, and something that, maybe to a little bit higher. So he's looking at his challenges, he's thinking of what to do and how to do it. And then he finds the solutions. Okay, if I take this board and I put these maybe branches here, and maybe he did a tripod and it's not sturdy. Oh, maybe if I put a fourth leg here and it's going to be more, and then you find the solution. So he found the solution and he got organized. And this is a simple example with a chair, but imagine anything, in a corporation, an enterprise, when you putting people together, you go through this process, and then you come to this fourth step, which is organization, before you take it to the material. Now you've identified your goal, you've seen your challenges, you've developed your solutions. Now you're organizing, you're putting it together, you're taking it. And how many times you think of a lot of stuff, and a lot of people are saying, okay, take it from the mental to the material. If you don't take this next step, everything just stays in the mind, and maybe something that's going to be beautiful, you're not taking that next leap. And remember what we were saying about, it's a spiral, and you suddenly jump from one plane to the other, and this is what happens when you got and you want to do it. Then you go to the next phase, or the next plane, which is the material. And in the material, you see here before we start in the goals, but here we start with another one. And this in my numerology represents 5. So you see it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over here. So you go to the material and it's a command. So now you have the command. So it's been approved, and you are now able to bring everything. It's been approved in the material plane. So God, we're not taking it to the eternal part yet. So it maybe you got the funding from somebody. Okay, you got a business plan, you presented it, and somebody says, okay, I like it. You have the command. You are authorized to do it. And then the same sequence repeats, but now you have a bar here because you're in this material plane. And the same thing happens. You start to put it out. and you start with a goal, and you suddenly realize that you have to adjust, and you have to, and it depends on the capacity for you to really identify the challenges and understand that the challenges will arise and that you have to meet them, and maybe not even deceive yourself and say everything is perfect, but you start to understand the challenges, and you start to understand the solutions. And surely but surely, if it's also based on intentions, this is it says that a lot of it has to do with what intention you put into this. If everything is good, you're going to bring it over here, and be eventually it's going to be fruitful. Maybe, and this is interesting, why you can't, why maybe not, maybe why sometimes evil and anything that's not eternal can't jump here, because once you exhaust the material, once you found the solutions, and you come to the organization, and you lay it out, and it's a nefarious intention, if it's a nefarious endeavor, if it's evil, then the spirit is not going to allow it to jump into this plane. It's going to stay there, and that's why evil things and evil never wins. And that's why this is common, because if we understand that everything comes from God and returns to God, this eventually gets cut here, and since it's cancerous, it's bad, it's not going to go into this plane and contaminate this plane. It's going to be quarantined, and it's not going to be, you're not going to let that influence that. So anything that is you get here, it may be work. And this is a nice thing, an analogy, or not an analogy, but a good way to think about it. When you can go and do your job, and you can be, 9 to 5, and get the bills done, get the bills paid, and not, very mundane and nothing spiritual. But if instead you do your work, even if it's whatever, it can be the most laborious, but it's really rewarding to you. It really transcends and makes you really, it gives you a lot of rewards. It's really rewarding, and every day that you go and work, it's really like a giving thanks to God, and it's really like a prayer, and a gratitude in that, and your life is fulfilled, and anything can go there. But for the purpose of explaining this, let's see how this goes into the spiritual plane. So once you exhaust this, and it's been created, then you start to extract the transcendental values, what's going to be eternal. And as we know, anything that we do here in this material plane that has of a spiritual value will be everlasting, will be incorporated into God, into the universe, into the supreme, and it will be part of the universe. So anything that we do, and even why do we do this? It's because of this, because in the end, when we are happy with people, when not happy, when we feel this love, and we are connected with people, and we share, and we do this, it's really what matters. It might sound like a cliche, but it's really what matters. So this jumps over here, and you have the command, and then you go, and also you have to see how the spiritual goals and the spiritual challenges, and then you find the solution. But from here, we're missing the organization, because once you find the solution, the act is ours, the consequence is God's. But from here, God takes it and incorporates this that you created from your mind, processed through your material, and elevated through your spiritual into the eternal. And that's for this segment. I really like this part.
Okay, I'll tell you what we have from the tutor. And I was based on what you were saying about finding solutions. And I said, what is the most positive course of action? And it said the most positive course of action in finding solutions is one that aligns with the highest values of truth, beauty, and goodness, while fostering harmony, growth, and mutual understanding. A truly positive solution is not merely a practical fix to a problem, but a response that uplifts all involved, respects the dignity of others, and contributes to the greater good. Begins with a mindset rooted in love, empathy, and a sincere desire to serve, recognizing that every challenge is an opportunity for growth, both individually and collectively. The step in this process is to seek clarity and understanding. It involves approaching the situation with humility and an open mind, and to perceive truth of the matter from multiple perspectives. Doing so, you not only gain a fuller understanding of the problem, to demonstrate respect for the experiences and viewpoints of others. Openness fosters collaboration and creates an environment where creative and constructive solutions can emerge. It's important to remember that truth is often multifaceted. Best solutions are those that integrate diverse insights into a harmonious whole.
That's very interesting. Yeah, very interesting, and it goes hand in hand. Exactly.
Well, I'll add something here, I guess. But Santiago, you were talking about people with ideas and turning ideas into solutions and that sort of thing there. But that's kind of one of the things that I try to remember too is there's the converting potentials to actuals. So potentials
Hmm.
are ideas. This is an idea that I have that, or this is I have an idea that this can be done. But if you don't take that idea and turn it into a result, then it's really just not worth much. So, a lot of people, and I do this too, I'm not, you know, I'm guilty of this myself, have lots of ideas, but, converting an idea to a result is sometimes difficult. But that's the difference between people who are successful at doing something and people who aren't. Is be able to take an idea or a concept and convert the potential into something that's actual, by building a team to do that, by seeing a way of a problem and then finding a way to solve that. And, but that's really what makes life interesting is having those problems to solve, having those ideas or seeing a need or seeing something that needs to be done or some way to serve. It's seeing those challenges and having the curiosity and then solving those problems, striving to solve those problems in whatever way that problem needs to be solved. And then, but that's the grand adventure of life, I think, is problem solving. That's what really makes our daily life interesting. I mean, if you live a life and, you've got plenty of money and nothing ever goes wrong and all that, life can be kind of boring for people like that. I think that's why when you see a lot of rich people get into the drug scene and things like that, because it's kind of boring. They don't have to solve any problems. They want something fixed, they just tell somebody to fix it and it's fixed. So they have no real challenge in life. I think, especially us address this kind of to the young people that might be watching. Don't be stressed out by the problems that come your way. Those are the things that make life interesting. Those are the things that help you grow, become a better person, and just create this adventure that we call life. I'd like to touch a little bit on Diane's experience. Diane, I didn't know you had that experience, like with the medical school and things like that. But it touches on one of the things that I've thought about is, what's the difference between a person who's dead and a person who's alive? And I've read where, you know, many years ago they would take a dead person, they would weigh a person, and then after they died, weigh them again. What is the difference between a live person and a dead person? And materially, there's nothing. It's only the energy that we call life that animates that physical body that's gone. Well, where'd that go? Well, and I'm not saying this is accurate, but this is my this is my theory. There's a theory that says that matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed. Our physical body, the matter that's we're made of, dust to dust, ashes to ashes, our body returns back to the physical world where it came from. But what happens to the mind and what happens to the spirit that's within us? What happens to the mind and the spirit that are the true us that lives within this physical body? If you apply science to that, it carries on because that energy, whatever that energy may be, cannot be created or destroyed. It goes on. And I think that's where eternal life comes in, is that carrying on of the divine within, our personality, our mind, and all that continues on. I
Yeah,
kind of got that
exactly.
kind of what Diane was talking about there with her experience.
Totally.